Unit 1.1 Economic and Political Motives for Imperial Expansion. Trading is a leading factor for imperial expansion, and the policy of mercantilism helped European nations gain wealth through trade by gaining control of trade, overseas possession, which gave raw materials, labor, and valuable products. Different trades, such as a slave trade, allowed businesses to become wealthy. Mercantilism started to decline during the 18th century due to the negative impacts for the nations involved. Sun suggested that imperialism wasn't profitable because the government didn't need economic control over another country. Industrialization. Governments needed to find new sources for profit, such as machinery and transportation. Some European nations and the US created competition and established trades using transportation. The Long Depression. Competition increased during this time because there was a price deflation that was known as the Long Depression. The production of goods was outstripping the demand of them, and prices started lowering, which caused a decrease in wages and job loss. And there's more job losses. Competition for raw materials. Uh, Europe's industrialized nations needed to find new markets for products and exploit new sources of raw materials. Some products that were found in Asia and Africa were valued highly in Europe. Imperialism as a policy. Political power in Europe was led by the wealthy who mainly focused on overseas expansion, but the control they had was being threatened. Politic Politicians were promoting overseas expansion as a positive to everyone, including the working class, by saying that imperialism will help improve the conditions of the working class. Was used by governments to unite people. Strategic control of key regions. Trading with countries in the Far East was dangerous, so Britain established a port to supply and protect the ships. Canals were also used so European ships could travel quicker. After Britain took control of Egypt, other European countries wanted to gain territory in Africa, and it was used as a political motive to seek overseas possessions. The emergence of new imperialism. The new wave of imperialism was known as New Imperialism, and it lasted from 1871 to 1914, where it is believed that it is a continuation of earlier expansion in Europe, while others believe that it's different in character. Nature of New Imperialism. Geographic scope. New imperialism mainly focused on Africa and Asia, due to many countries having valuable minerals and materials, such as rubber and tin. David Livingstone was able to discover the source of the River Nile due to the funding of the British government. A crumbling Chinese empire offered many opportunities to the Far East to increase vital trade links. Henry Moho led to many expeditions to Siam, Cambodia, and Laos, which led to French imperial control in Indochina, maintaining peaceful relations. European countries had a rivalry to claim overseas possessions, but they avoided war with the help of the Treaty of Berlin in 1885 that created new rules by which European nations had to follow should they carry out their plans for expansion in Africa. Imperial nations in China created their own areas of influence and were prepared to collaborate against the Chinese. New imperial countries. The main countries like Britain, Spain, France, Portugal, and the Netherlands carried out early imperialism, but new imperialism led to overseas expansion to the rest of the world. Industrial growth in the US led to them wanting control in Central and South America, with trading routes in Asia. Japan also went through industrialization and military revolutions for power in Asia. This led to conflict with Russia and a rivalry with the USA. Factors enabling new imperialism, medical advancement. Africa was known as the white man's grave due to diseases in the 18th century, but medicines for some of these diseases, like malaria, were discovered in 1817. Technological advancement. Iron and steel production was cheaper and more effective due to the Industrial Revolution and developments of transportation to navigate rivers such as the Congo, the Zambezi, and the Niger. Communication systems were also improved, and in 1891, a telegraph network was made reaching from London, both North and South America, India, and New Zealand. The theory of racial superiority. Scientists in the 19th century classified white people as racially superior, with more theories coming out to support this. Calling other races as inferior was supported in Europe and the USA during this time. Europeans tried to improve the lives of overseas locals motivated by their self-interest. Some explorers saw nothing wrong with the motivations of European countries, claiming that it was their right. The nature and purpose of scramble for Africa. Only 10% was of Africa was under control in Europe in 1870. Explorers started going to Africa when medical and transportation advancements were made. Some of them were missionaries, while others were entrepreneurs. The King of Belgium, Leopold II, hired an explorer to secure treaties through the Congo River. By 1900, over 90% of Africa was under European nations. Britain was mainly interested in Egypt and South Africa. The discovery of valuable minerals of the Boers and the Transvaal alerted Britain that they needed to expand further into Africa. They prevented countries like France and Germany from getting to these areas, and by 1900, Britain had Egypt, the Sudan, British East Africa, British Somaliland, Southern and Northern Rhodesia, Bechuanaland, Orange Free State, and the Transvaal, Gambia, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, British Gold Coast, and Nyasaland. This accounted for more than 30% of the population of Africa. They wanted to build a railway and a telegraph line from Cairo to Cape. So for France, they invaded Algeria, which and were involved in the slave trade, so they controlled Senegal and then moved to the inland to find raw materials. They felt that they needed to build a powerful empire after the loss in the Franco-Prussian War. Belgium claimed that Belgium claimed the Congo to build prestige and power because the Congo had large amounts of raw rubber, which had a lot of financial advantages. Portugal claimed Angola and Mozambique so they wouldn't be left behind in the race. Germany entered the race late because at first they wanted to form alliances and didn't want to rival other countries. They later changed their policy so they wouldn't gain territory in Africa. They gained control of Cameroon, German East Africa, German Southwest Africa, and Togoland. Most of the profitable areas were already taken by other nations at the time, and all of this led to the scramble of Africa to become an issue of national pride and prestige, because they want to own land so other countries wouldn't. The impact of European imperialism in Africa. Benefits. Countries in Africa were able to develop governed states. The overall education was improved. Transportation communication was created and improved using roads, railways, telegraph wires. People had access to water, sanitation, medical care, and hospitals. And the people started farming, which led to an increase in production of crops. Cons. Boundaries were drawn by Europeans who didn't know the existing boundaries. Chiefs and kings were killed and exiled. The power structure created by Europeans put them above Africa. Cultures of the countries were undermined. Africans had to work in jobs. The resources in these countries were exploited, and there's a lot of inhumanity, and the Europeans treated them poorly. Reasons for an extent of domestic support for overseas expansion in Britain, France, Germany. Education and new technology was used to help support imperialism. Lies such as calling Britain the heroes and African savages were spread around. Literacy, items, and entertainment were also used to help promote imperialism. Britain wanted to end slavery in Africa, making it known as the white man's burden. The French government promoted imperialism. Patriotism was taught and encouraged to students. France worked with missionaries to spread the Catholic Church, and the government claimed overseas possessions would benefit the French people. Germany were at first conflicted whether they should be involved in imperialism, but they were convinced after learning the economic benefits. They believed they could help promote nationalism, and missionaries were brought the most growth of German imperialism, and postcards were also used to promote it. Opposition to imperialism. Religious leaders, intellectuals, and writers thought that imperialism was morally wrong. John Hobson argued that new imperialism was harming Britain. He argued that tensions were increasing, trade barely increased, and useless wars were being fought. Economists and politicians criticized the policies related to imperialism, and organizations were made to stop the useless wars Britain were involved in because they had a lot of economic and time negatives.